We're going to be in California in June, and we'll be in Philadelphia back here in July. And my job is to win this nomination. If I don't win the nomination, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that a Republican does not get elected president of the United States.
And Nancy Cordes is in Philadelphia, where both candidates held their final rallies before this primary day. Nancy, again, Bernie Sanders telling you he's staying in. He said this throughout. I am staying in this through California in June. He'll see you back in Philadelphia in July. But again, as you asked him, if he loses every state tonight, where simply does the Vermont senator believe he goes from here?
Well, he claims that he still has a path to victory, and as mathematically improbable as that is, Josh, that's something that every candidate who is staying in a race has to say. The minute you say, well, there probably isn't a path for me, but I'm staying in anyway, all the money goes away, all the support goes away, and you're dead in the water. So he has to say, despite the reality that he does feel like he can go all the way, that there's a reason for him to keep going. The challenge for Sanders is that as he goes on, he's under more and more pressure from Clinton supporters, from, frankly, the media, to explain why he is still in the race, why he is continuing to go up against a candidate who currently has 80% of the delegates that she needs to clinch the nomination, and after today will likely be much closer to that goal.
And you said it. He's a different sort of candidate. He ran, perhaps not believing he would be here. He ran to highlight his agenda, and it has worked as he has consolidated quite a collective backing. How then does Hillary Clinton appeal to those folks who've come out in support of Sanders?
Well, that's a great question, and I tried to get him to answer that question last night. What exactly is it that she needs to say to win over you and your supporters? Does she have to share your concern about the same sort of slate of issues, or does she have to be willing to solve those issues in exactly the same way that you would solve them? Look, for example, at an issue like the minimum wage. Bernie Sanders supports a $15 an hour federal minimum wage. Hillary Clinton supports a $12 per hour minimum wage, but she's open to individual states going higher if they want to. So can Bernie Sanders only get behind her, for example, if she comes up to $15 an hour? That seems in some ways like splitting hairs when the minimum wage right now federally is $7.25 an hour. So both of their proposals represent a huge jump. He wouldn't bite. He wouldn't say. And that's not all that unusual. Nothing frustrates a candidate more than people sort of reading their obituary before they're out of the race saying, what are you going to do, when you lose? It's just not something that he's interested in talking about. So he wouldn't really say how far she needs to go to win him over enough so that he could sort of wholeheartedly back her and tell his supporters you need to get behind her. He would say that he will work very hard to make sure a Republican doesn't get into the White House. So that is something, but that's not the same thing. But, again, Hillary Clinton wasn't saying back in 2008 before she got out of the race, well, as soon as this is over, I'm really going to get behind President Obama. That's only something that she did after she conceded. Yeah,
both have said they believe in unity, and it's up to the other one to make sure that it happens very quickly here, Nancy. Too soon for Hillary Clinton to begin an informal vetting of potential vice presidential candidates? Any names floating out of the campaign?
I would be willing to wager, Josh, that an informal vetting of vice presidential candidates has been going on, at least, in her subconscious for about 8 years. So, no, it's not too early. The campaign doesn't like the media to be talking about it too much because it looks like they think they're taking the primaries for granted and they think they've got the race in the bag. So they continuously downplay it. They say that's not happening yet. There's plenty of time for that. And the reality is that the pool of names that we're all talking about right now, the senators from Virginia, Tim Kaine and Mark Warner, the senator from Ohio, Sherrod Brown, Labor Secretary Tom Perez, these names have all been floating out there for a year. So everyone's kind of aware of who the potential picks are. And so who the campaign eventually chooses depends not just on what they think of each of these individual people, what they bring to the campaign, but also who Clinton's opponent is, because that will impact who the campaign decides would be the best fit for her in a general election.
A fit arguably almost a decade in the making. Nancy Cordes there in Philadelphia with the Democrats. Thank you.
You're so welcome.